Yes, team, welcome to this training on getting leaner, stronger, and faster for your rugby. My name is Ben, coach at Builder Body Online Training, helping rugby players level up with elite level S and C. Without further ado, we are going to get into training, and it is going to be on the Beyond section of our Builder Body Online method, which is going to focus on elite level strength and conditioning training, nutrition mastery, recovery strategies, mental management, level up lifestyle, and more to get you pumped up for your rugby. So let's get into this training. And just a quick recap on how the Builder Body Online method improves your rugby. There are no quick fixes in this program, in this method. We always work for long-term results and teach you the skills to level up so that you aren't being told what to do. You understand how to do through good knowledge, good practice, and good skills. And you are never going to be alone with Builder Body Online. We're always here, so reach out whenever you like. Send them in the comments, send us a DM on social media. We love to hear from it. Let's get into getting lean for rugby. So why do we need to be lean? Well, to start with, it's a simple matter of physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. We can produce much more force at much greater and faster rates when we aren't carrying excess fat mass and we've got plenty of useful force producing muscle mass. Simply put, we can utilize our bodies better when mass is controlled. So acceleration and force, they subsequently increase as we are leaner. How fast and for how long can you carry your mass? Well, your body needs to work a lot harder to move and perform when it's heavy with fat mass and has less muscle mass, which makes being faster, more agile, being more conditioned for the full 80 minutes, work rate staying harder, etc., etc. It makes all of those much harder. So being leaner will help with those. It also influences our robustness. Being weighed down by excess mass puts a lot more stress and strain on the body, so injuries can be more likely. If we have mobile, stable, and strong lean tissue, we can reduce injury risk. And finally, we've got general health and well-being. We will be a lot less likely risk of injury and illness from things like diabetes, heart disease, osteoarthritis, etc., all of these things that are associated with obesity and being overweight. And we will likely also have mental and emotional benefits as well from being a lean rugby player, such as confidence boosts, body image, food relationships, and so on. So there's many ways and many reasons why being lean is so important as a rugby player. But before we go any further, I really want to stress this upon you as a person. Do not jeopardize your well-being to get lean. There are many ways that getting lean and chasing body composition goals can be detrimental to your well-being. It could be physical, emotional, mental, social, whatever it is. If chasing the goal is becoming detrimental to your well-being, please take a step back and reassess why you are doing it and whether it is worth it or not, because I want you to make sure you are healthy physically and mentally and you're not pushing for something which is taking you the opposite way. So let's get into it. How to get lean. And these are the fundamental categories that we need to nail so that we can get lean for our rugby. It is a solid training program, good rugby nutrition, and leading a lean lifestyle day to day, week to week, integrating your rugby. So let's get into the thick of it with some of the details on these categories. So with our training program, we need to have nailed the fundamentals of strength training, conditioning, and speed. These are the absolute basics to help us get lean for our rugby. So with strength training, lifting weights builds lean muscle mass, and we need lean mass to increase our metabolism and also to perform well on the pitch. Lifting weights is also really good for getting you lean through burning calories after your training has finished. Okay, and this is called excess post exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC for short. Okay, this applies to a few different training concepts, but especially strength training and resistance training. Moving on to the conditioning. Conditioning also uses energy, it also burns calories, and if it's at a high enough intensity or long enough duration, you can start to use fat for energy too and burn away some fat mass. High intensity intervals, similar to that of a rugby match, is also going to elicit EPOC, like we mentioned before in the strength training, and gets you into the red zone of higher intensities for longer, using more and more energy, aka burning more calories. Same goes for actual rugby training and circuit training as well. And all of those trainings alike. So, conditioning really good. An extra little tactic for getting yourself leaner is to add conditioning top ups to your sessions, whether it's in the gym, whether it's on the field. Anywhere over 10 minutes of top ups can have a really positive effect on your conditioning, number one, but also for your body composition, number two, if you're looking to get leaner. So, there's that tip for you for the day. Make sure you add some top ups at the end of your sessions in conditioning. And then we move on to speed. So speed, less directly affecting the body composition, but still really useful. The high intensity nature of your speed training is going to help you use energy, number one, and get lean, number two. But we mainly want to train speed to produce that force at faster rates. Remember, going back to the first slide, why we want to get lean, why is it useful? We want to train it so we can produce force at faster rates. Like we mentioned at the start, we can utilize our body mass better. But it's also really, really important to keep training speed for injury reduction because of the high intensity efforts that we use when we sprint maximally. We need to make sure that we have plenty of exposure to that. So we keep training and then we keep playing and we keep burning calories and we keep getting leaner as a result. So speed is also really, really important due to robustness reasons. So moving on to our rugby nutrition, and we can see here all of the different categories again that fall under this bracket to getting you leaner. Calorie balance, this is at the top. Calorie balance is so important for general health and fitness and body composition, but also still applies to rugby players as well. To lean out, we need to be in a minor deficit. And I'm going to emphasize the minor word because rugby is a really, really highly demanding sport, and it's really important that we've got enough energy to cope with that demand. So large deficit can be actually quite detrimental to our health and to our well-being, as well as our performance on the pitch. So a very small deficit is usually enough if we stick to it over time. So minor deficit's important. Also, making sure with your calorie balance, picking the stage of the season is really important. So in the off and the pre-season periods, deficits are usually a better idea as you don't need to perform in games. We also have a lot more time and energy to focus on our body composition and training. So refining nutrition, refining our training, making sure we're training at high intensities is a lot more realistic in the off and the preseason stage as opposed to the in-season. I would definitely not recommend being in a big deficit during a heavy in-season period of playing games and training unless you have a lot of guidance or you have a lot of experience with your nutrition. Okay, the final refinement on your calorie balance is to pick specific days of the week. So you could pick your rest days as days to be in a deficit. And these are the best days because you don't need as much energy to fuel your training and recover from the training. Okay. They don't require a lot of energy to perform in your rest days. In your training days, they do. So it's not the best idea to be in a big deficit for your training days. We then move on to the macronutrients and manipulating these. So that's our proteins, carbs, and fats. And we're always aiming for high protein from lean protein sources such as chicken breasts or fish. And we're aiming for more than 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day if you can. That is quite a tough ask, but I think it's a really important thing to aim high. Protein's so important for your metabolism and also for growth and repair to recover from your training and get better and adapt. We also need really good quality carbs to fuel our training and fuel our recovery. We're aiming for natural sources here, ones that may be slow releasing, maybe they're also high fiber. That would be a good idea. And fats, unprocessed, unsaturated if we can. You've got to be mindful when doing a body composition goal and trying to get lean that fats are quite high in calories. They are calorie dense. So if a deficit is really important for you, fat could be contributing quite a lot to your daily intake. But really important that you have your fats in for natural processes in the body. And then we can go into the much more specifics under here, such as nutrient timing. What time are we eating specific foods and why? Food composition, this is where we go slightly more into the micronutrients. We're talking vitamins, minerals. Supplements, these could be the icing on the cake. And then hydration, not to forget drinking plenty of water and replacing lost fluids from your rugby. A really, really good thing to always remember when manipulating your rugby nutrition in the process of trying to get lean is the pyramid of prioritization. We start under here with calorie balance, guys. You need to be consuming less calories than you are burning to make sure that you keep losing weight. That's the most important thing. Then we've got the macronutrients, the levels of protein, fat, and carbohydrate in our diet. And as you can see, we're going up to the slightly less important, the nutrient timing, the food composition, and the supplementation as the icing on the cake. So please remember this priorities period. If you can't do anything, make sure that you do the calorie balance and you get that right so that you get nice and lean. And then we've got following a lean rugby lifestyle. This is your day-to-day lifestyle in the process of getting lean. We need to stay active, okay, using energy in the day. And this will particularly apply if you maybe have a sedentary job, if you maybe stay at home for long periods most days. These are just examples. So getting your daily activity level up simply works on that calorie balance equation again by using more energy, which is going to help you get lean. Okay, it's also really, really good for general fitness levels and also mental health. Sitting around all week, all day, it's not particularly good. It might do the opposite. So daily activity is really important. We can then move on to things like sleep and recovery. These are absolutely massive for us to stay lean. We need to rest and rejuvenate so that we can grow and repair our lean mass from the training that we are doing, and that so we can get up and go again with our training and nutrition without getting exhausted, without getting sore, ill, or injured. And finally, managing the mental side of things. We're keeping tabs on our stress and anxiety levels. This helps us remain in a growing state of training and recovery. If we are overly stressed or we're really struggling mentally, our body sits in the fight or flight stage, which means it doesn't grow and repair from training and can lead to putting on more fat, holding everything in. Simple things like maybe scheduling your training so you reduce stress on time. You schedule in your family time, your work time. These can help. You can also do specific exercises such as breathing exercises. You could start meditating. You could spend more time in nature. You could spend more time with your friends and family to relax. Whatever it is for you that helps reduce your stress and anxiety, these all help. So that covers off getting lean for rugby and the key categories. We are now going to move into getting stronger. So why do we need to be strong for rugby? Well, more force is going to help us in so many areas. Force wins matches. It can help us in collision-based situations so that we can overcome opposing forces from opposition players, such as breaking tackles or maybe making tackles. You know the drill. The force that we can produce from being strong also transfers to other elements of physical performance in rugby. Strength relates to moving faster, especially for short accelerations and change of directions like sidestepping defenders and accelerating on from there. Producing force in a short amount of time, or otherwise known as power, is used in most athletic movements and a huge determinant of success in rugby as well. Force can also benefit our conditioning. It makes us more efficient at using force over longer periods. Okay, important in really grueling areas like at the end of a game. And finally, being strong can also help with our motor control and coordination, which transfers over to skills used in the sport, such as kicking or passing. So it's an absolutely massive thing for us to be strong and produce force because of all of these reasons. Robustness is also really, really key. We want to stay injury-free all season long if we can. Force will enhance our movement quality and robustness of our tissue to reduce injury risk. So being strong is super key for this. And finally, we have body composition results. So strength training burns loads of calories, which we just went over here. This is during the sessions and after sessions, remember the epoch, and it leads to increases in muscle mass and good body composition results. So whether you want to lose or gain weight, it is the absolute glue of body composition training, is resistance training and strength training. So you can see already just from this list that I've given you here, how important it is to be strong for your rugby. So we're going to categorize our strength into these three categories. We've got maximal strength, which is simply the amount of force that we can produce. And it does all of the things that we previously mentioned. That's why it's so important. There's also hypertrophy, and this means an increase in muscle fiber size or simply just more muscle mass, okay? This style of training is also really helpful for muscular endurance, as well as the same benefits that we have previously mentioned. And finally, power. Again, this is the greatest determinant of performance, and it's the rate at which we can produce force. It's a little bit different to what we typically call strength training. but it does fall under the resistance training bracket, so it gets a little mention here as well in our categories. So let's get into the good stuff. How to get strong. Well, again, we could break it down into these fundamental categories that we have to nail to get strong for our rugby. So number one is selecting the correct exercises, okay, exercise selection. We also have nailing the sets, reps, intensity, and rest periods. And finally, planning and periodizing your strength training throughout the rugby season. And examples of these categories maybe for exercise selection, when we're aiming for maximal strength gain, so the maximal amount of force that we can produce, selecting compound lifts that use the whole body and can be loaded really, really heavy for high intensity strength training. That's an example of how to select the right exercise. For the sets, reps, intensity, and the rest, we are looking at low rep and high intensity for maximal strength, and we're looking at higher rep and lower intensity for hypertrophy and endurance outcomes. And finally, the periodization of our training, ensuring a step-by-step increase in the volume and intensity during off or pre-season phases. And this may include a deload week to allow for recovery and adaptation to occur. So this is an easy, simple examples of how we can make sure we stay strong and get strong for our rugby. But this is absolutely key, okay? Nowadays, your world of rugby training is no doubt loaded full of information from places like social media, from your teammates, from various coaches, from various online sources that you may have read or seen. You're going to see and hear about all sorts of flashy new exercises. There are going to be new gurus that are going to be telling you what's a hot new exercise that is going to get you really, really strong. But at the end of the day, if you nail the fundamental strength lifts with proper technique and correct loading, you are going to get stronger. So keep it simple. So that covers off how to get strong. We are now going to move into how to get faster, the last element of leaner, stronger, faster for rugby. Let's get into it. So, conditioning. Why do we need to be conditioned? Well, straight away, engines win matches. So a better engine is going to win you games. With better conditioning, we have much more involvement in a game. We can perform skills and we can contribute for longer periods. We can have a positive impact on the game for our team all game long. Think about the best scrum halves in the game nowadays, for example. They are doing so well, Antoine Dupont, because he is really fit, he is really conditioned, so he can be involved in the game all the way through really, really frequently. That's just one example. There are so many more at the top level of rugby. It's also an underlying fitness quality. With conditioning, we can better utilize other things like speed, our strength, our power, and so on. Conditioning sets a really good foundation for other qualities of physical fitness in rugby. Again, robustness, we're reducing our risk of injury by increasing our efficiency of movement and limiting the effects of fatigue on our tissue. If it gets too much, we're much more likely to move poorly and we're more likely to get injured. So conditioning is really big for staying robust. And finally, again, body composition. Conditioning is going to burn away fat, excess body mass that we don't need, and it's going to help us get lean when combined with good rugby nutrition and a solid resistance training program as well. And under our bracket of getting fast, we are obviously going to do speed and how to get fast as well and why we need to be fast. So being faster again obviously wins matches. It has such a big advantage in so many areas if you're faster than the opposition. You've just got to think about it. When you're attacking the line, if you are an attacking player, if you're faster than your defender, you are more likely to beat them. You're more likely to break the line. You're more likely to make meters. You're more likely to score tries. In the same way, on the other side, if you are a defender, you are more likely to keep up with the attack. You're more likely to make the necessary movements. You're more likely to make tackles. You're more likely to stop them from scoring if you are faster than them. And being fast, once again, training speed reduces the risk of injury. It's so common to see hamstring and calf injuries from sprinting in rugby, especially at the lower levels, because players aren't sprinting as much in training. They're not exposed to the huge amounts of force and velocity during sprinting. So improving your speed will help you do it much more consistently without getting injured. So we can see conditioning and speed so important for being fast and being mobile around the pitch. Again, think of this really simply. If in doubt, get strong and get aerobically fit. These are the absolute foundations, and research and history really backs this premise. An absolute minimum, just lay the foundation for your rugby, get strong and get aerobically fit. So how to get conditioned, getting into the good stuff now. Obviously, this is a massive topic. There are lots and lots of things to consider and many different energy systems that we need to consider as well. But we are going to focus mainly on the aerobic system. Like we just said, if in doubt, getting strong and getting aerobically fit are the foundations. So aerobic conditioning and how to do it. Well, there's many, many different methods that you can improve your aerobic conditioning. One, you can just do continuous training. Usually we focus this in the off-season period. It's slightly less specific to the high intensity nature of rugby, but it does provide a really, really good clean aerobic stimulus to do continuous training. It's also a really good idea to do top-ups, like we mentioned before, in getting lean. If you want to burn some extra calories, do some aerobic top-ups to build your engine slightly further, then that's a great idea as well. And finally, for recovery, a slow, easy aerobic flush is great for recovery as well. We then move into interval training. This is slightly higher intensity, mixing things up such as short intervals, such as 20-second sprint, 20 seconds of rest with 10 reps by 3 sets, just as an example. We can do things like tempo running, where we start to work on our stride, our rhythm, our posture, our running form. It could be something like a 60 or 70 meter run every 30 seconds on the 30 seconds mark. Okay. And then finally, long intervals as well. We're starting to focus a little bit more on the neuromuscular adaptations at the periphery. But those are just some examples of interval training where we can up the intensity slightly to be a bit more rugby specific. But moving on to actual rugby specific training, this is the best way to get aerobically fit. We're talking skills, drills, technical, tactical training that you will do with a ball, with your teammates, with coaches. Things like small-sided games are really, really good as well, just to increase the demand, or extensive run-throughs where you're doing full pitch run-throughs for long periods of time. So these are the best ways for you to get aerobically fit that are rugby specific. Down as we move further down into other elements, we've got circuit training. This is a great idea for building muscular endurance and building that engine. Alternate sports, we can do things such as combat sports or grappling. We can play touch rugby. We can play sevens, maybe in the off season. Plenty of alternate sports that can transfer over to your rugby conditioning. And then we have the mixture of on-feet and off-feet options, manipulating whether we're going to be running or using other elements or other methods of improving our aerobic conditioning. On-feet is much more rugby specific, obviously, because you're going to be on your feet running. Off-feet is a good idea when you need to reduce the load. We can use different equipment. We can target different things. So a mixture of both is really important. So now moving on to how to get faster and working on our speed. Again, we can break this up into simple categories. There are 4 simple categories for you: acceleration speed, top speed, change of direction, and agility. Accelerations, we're typically thinking about maximal strength, high amounts of force at the initial part of a sprint. Top speed, this is slightly further down the line where we're standing up tall and we're reaching our maximal velocities. Here we need power. We need a bit more stiffness in our tissue. We're reactive. We're reacting off of the floor, all at really, really high velocities. And change of directions and agility, these relate to our ability to absorb force, change our body position, and accelerate out of the turn so that we can beat defenders or attackers and beat our opposition. So what are we focusing on in our training for speed? Well, we have drills, okay, posture, rhythm, and timing. This is huge. This is working on our leg action and our arm action to make sure we develop all of the above. They aim to build rhythm, coordination. These are essential for running fast. If we aren't coordinated and we don't have a good rhythm with our stride, we're going to struggle to go faster. We also have sprints, and this is arguably the most important thing. Every week, all year round, at 100% effort. And this is the best way to get faster. If you don't sprint, you're not going to get faster. And you need to make sure you maintain the exposure to maximum effort sprints for improvements in your speed, but also for your robustness. Like we just said, you need to be exposed to that to reduce injury risk. We have strength and power training and also plyometrics, and these improve our force producing capabilities and the rate of force development producing capabilities as well, along with utilizing the body's natural elasticity to get faster on the feet. So many different training methods we can blend into one to make sure we're getting faster. We need to be doing these all the time to improve our speed. So that was a big presentation on getting leaner, stronger, and faster. Just to recap some of the things we went over. To get leaner, you need to follow a solid training program. You need to have good rugby nutrition, and you need to lead a lean rugby lifestyle. For our strength training, we can categorize being stronger by maximum strength, hypertrophy, and power training. Manipulating exercise selection, our sets, reps, intensity, and rest, and periodizing in the rugby season is super important to make sure we get stronger. And getting faster, we categorize this as our aerobic conditioning and our speed. To get aerobically conditioned, we work on continuous training, interval training, rugby specific work, on feet versus off feet options, all of the things that we just went over in that list. For our speed, we are trying to accelerate, go to top speeds, work on our change of direction and our reactive agility as well through drills, sprints, strength and power training, plyometrics as well. So there's just an overview and a recap of what we've gone over in this massive presentation on getting leaner, stronger, and faster. But at the end of the day, the most specific way to get leaner, stronger, and faster for your rugby is to train and play the sport. So I'll always push you to do this and prioritize this. Go to rugby trainings, go play with your mates in the park, whatever it takes. That is the most specific way that you can get leaner, stronger, faster for your rugby. So I hope this has been really, really useful. Please, can you subscribe to our channel? Please follow us on Instagram. Join our free Facebook group if you want more rugby strength and conditioning trainings. And please feel free to reach out for help towards your goals. We always like to speak to people. We always want to help rugby players who are looking to improve just themselves or their performance on the pitch as well. All of the details of those will be in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you on the inside. Take care.